isn't that fair to ask, Melik, in terms of if Trump, every time he talks about opportunity zones, he's talking about how he's always in reference to black people. Well, shouldn't black people be saying, okay, fine, how did black people benefit? Please show me the data that shows how black people are benefiting from opportunity zones, since anytime he brings them up, it's in relation to what he's done for the blacks.
Well, I'm sure that's a valid question, and I think it's one that definitely should be asked, whether or not they should have that data at this point. I think that they should, but just to clarify a couple of things. So I'll use DC as an example. In DC, and I'm imagining this is the case elsewhere, it's not according to zip code, it's according to census tract. And in DC, 79% of the actual opportunity zones, the zones that were approved, are located east of the river, which is in 7 wards, 7 and 8, majority black. And there are criteria that the tract had to have in order for it to get approved in the first place. So it dealt with the unemployment numbers. It dealt with a lot of factors that I think the Trump administration could probably use from DC, because DC has done a very good job at explaining how they decided where those are. So the numbers, it seems like they really did do the 75 billion, but I do know that in places like here in DC that we do have data to show why they were located in a certain place, the criteria that they used, and I imagine at some point that the district will be able to give some sort of information on the racial impact. But the idea of opportunity zones itself, to answer your question as far as why it's linked to black people, well, part of that is because we link these type of developments to black people. So there are when I talk about that criteria, the fact that it had to be located in certain parts, there are all of these different guidelines that you have to fall back. When you're dealing in the inner city, most of us obviously live in inner cities, and so that's how black people are impacted by it. I still think that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I still think that it's a great thing. We should continue to build upon it and add to it. But there is the responsibility on who gets these contracts. That's on local government. That's not on federal government. Local governments are responsible for. So if we want to know, just like when T.I. was talking about not being able to get, black people not being part of this opportunity zone initiative down in Atlanta, well, he should use his wealth to get people together to make sure that we have a seat at the table. Yeah, local governments are responsible for that, not the federal.
No, they're actually not responsible, Michael. I'm reading this here. This is the actual White House report. The Council of Economic Advisors, go to my iPad, Anthony, finds that OZs, opportunity zones, which are census tracts nominated by state governors and certified by the U.S. Department of the Treasury to be eligible for the investment tax cuts, are among the poorest communities in the United States. These communities have an average poverty rate more than double that of all other communities, and are home to a higher share of African Americans, Hispanics, and high school dropouts. Even among all the communities eligible to be an OZ under federal law, every state selected communities that on average had a median household income less than that of communities that were not selected.